Caitlin Clark got a little get back at Kelsey Plum.
She was taking a shot.
Could not help but to drag Caitlin Clark through the glass as she did it.
0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
The WNBA is on a hot streak. They're finally turning.
Something incredible just happened minutes ago, and it's shaking up the whole WNBA world. Right now, Kelsey Plum is likely feeling absolutely terrible because Caitlin Clark just dominated her in the most ruthless and strategic performance women's basketball has witnessed. I'm still processing everything because this went beyond simple revenge. It was a masterclass in how to completely outsmart and reveal the truth about someone who attacked your reputation. Let me be clear, Plum didn't simply get defeated, she got completely humiliated. Before we dive into this total collapse, show your support by hitting that like button if you're standing with Caitlin through everything, because after learning what actually took place, you definitely won't be supporting Plum anymore.
Sore losers and you have sore winners, and Kelsey Plum is both.
We want to blow them out. We're a lot better than them.
We're watching for the league. We're really watching for Caitlin Clark. Everyone's going to be making more because of Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark is the one bringing in the numbers.
Well, there's one.
Let's go back to when this entire situation actually began. This wasn't some silly little disagreement out of nowhere. This grew from jealousy, hidden attacks, and one athlete's plan to diminish the glow of the greatest superstar the WNBA has ever known. Everything started at the WNBA All-Star Game, an occasion that should have focused on unity and honoring women's basketball at its peak performance. But instead, it turned into one of the most awkward, envy-driven scenes the game has witnessed. Back then, athletes were supporting the Pay Us What You Owe Us campaign, demanding fair wages from the league. And honestly, that demand makes total sense. These professionals absolutely deserve proper compensation. However, this is when Kelsey Plum showed her true intentions and executed what could become the biggest miscalculation of her entire career. At a media conference, with photographers snapping away and the whole basketball community watching closely, Plum decided to throw a barely disguised insult at Caitlin Clark, though lacking the courage to actually mention her name directly.
But 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
Or her actually making comments about Caitlin Clark's team not being at this meeting for the CBA.
She released this strategically phrased statement suggesting that nobody on Team Clark was genuinely participating. An obvious attack directed at the league's salary discussions and player activism. The boldness was absolutely stunning. She targeted the exact athlete who's created more attention, income, and exposure for the WNBA than anyone throughout its 28-year history and attempted to portray her as selfish and distant from fellow players. The strategy was so obvious, so intentional, and honestly so ridiculous that even casual observers could recognize precisely what she was attempting. What makes this even more frustrating is the actual truth of everything. Clark wasn't even present at the All-Star Game. She was at home resting and managing her personal matters. She carried zero obligation to appear for stage demonstrations simply to validate she supports player rights.
Shot at Caitlin Clark during that whole thing about Team Clark wasn't very present for that.
To me, I thought that was a little dig at Caitlin. A lot of people definitely thought so.
Plum, she was taking a shot at Caitlin Clark's situation involving the Pay Us What You Owe.
She's literally transformed the complete women's basketball landscape, attracting countless fresh supporters, boosting the sport's reputation, and contributing significantly to making the WNBA economically successful in unprecedented ways. Still, Plum somehow found the nerve to doubt her commitment. The insult was absolutely outrageous, but what happened next was incredibly rewarding. The negative response was immediate and severe. Simply observe Sabrina Ionescu's expression during that media conference. The awkwardness was completely visible on her face as she understood what Plum had just triggered. Even commentator Stacey King spoke directly, highlighting how dangerous it is to criticize the league's biggest attraction. And his assessment was accurate. The statistics explain everything. After Caitlin Clark joined, television viewership jumped dramatically. Merchandise is selling incredibly fast. Admission costs are rising quickly, and franchise fees have exploded from $50 million to $250 million practically instantly. She represents the league's biggest advantage in wage discussions, and Plum decided to openly attack the WNBA's most important player. But here's where Caitlin Clark demonstrated she's beyond just a leader on the floor.
But to say that Caitlin Clark didn't join in on the t-shirt discussion.
This week they wore t-shirts saying, making a statement, you better pay us. But instead of just leaving it at that, Kelsey Plum for LA had to take a dig at Caitlin Clark. Here she is.
The t-shirt
just united front was determined this morning that we had a meeting for. And, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present.
She's a strategic mastermind functioning at a level beyond most people's comprehension, playing advanced strategy while others are stuck with basic moves. Rather than responding with a careless media statement or getting involved in an online argument, Clark executed the ultimate strategic decision. She remained completely silent. She allowed quietness to benefit her. She continued dominating news cycles without even entering the arena and patiently waited for precisely the perfect opportunity to answer back. And when that opportunity came, it struck with devastating force. Shortly following the drama, Clark announced a huge worldwide partnership with Nike, again demonstrating that massive corporations are competing aggressively just for association with her brand. While Plum was busy attempting to destroy her, Clark was actively building her business kingdom. But the knockout punch arrived when Clark spotted Plum sharing photos from a Nike promotional event. Despite Plum having a contract with Under Armour, Nike's main competitor, that's when Clark delivered the most brilliantly timed, devastatingly sharp response that ignited the internet into chaos. Thanks for the Nike ad. Companies are showing up with massive payments, and she's earning significantly over 7 figures from sponsorships exclusively. While some veteran athletes are still struggling for recognition, the business community recognizes what some doubters won't acknowledge. Clark isn't merely the future, she's the now, and she's the engine behind why this league is finally receiving the recognition and economic support it's always earned. Following that Instagram response, Kelsey Plum has stayed completely silent, probably understanding she confronted someone who operates on a completely superior level. The identical athlete who attempted to portray Clark as egotistical and uninvolved ended up getting thoroughly beaten by someone who knows that genuine power doesn't require volume. It simply commands and allows results to speak themselves. Clark's influence is so massive that even a simple online comment generates major headlines, while Plum's efforts to maintain importance hardly get noticed. But this narrative extends beyond a personal battle between 2 competitors. What we're witnessing is a wider attempt by specific WNBA established players to control and restrict Caitlin Clark's phenomenal growth, and it's collapsing magnificently. Before Clark appeared, the league was facing poor ratings, minimal press coverage, and franchise costs that seemed tiny compared to current values. Matches were frequently held in mostly vacant stadiums with barely any nationwide interest whatsoever. Before Clark appeared, the WNBA dealt with weak sales, empty venues, and complete financial losses. Then circumstances changed dramatically. Viewership exploded. Apparel disappeared from stores. Admission prices increased. Broadcasting contracts expanded massively and franchise valuations soared incredibly. Virtually every beneficial development in the organization connects directly to her influence. However, rather than celebrating that expansion, certain established players react with barely hidden resentment and opposition. What they don't understand is straightforward. Clark's achievements benefit everybody. Increased viewership translates to increased salaries, superior facilities, and genuine negotiating power for the organization. She's the spark they've been demanding. And throughout everything, Clark has proven why she's beyond an exceptional athlete.